He's going to be turning 24 here. I think he could win a spot on their opening day roster next year and be given a chance to play every day as they kind of enter a bit of a mini rebuild. I think the price in drafts next year is going to be, is he going to be going outside the top like 200? Uh, he might be, and if he's going outside the top 200, I'm going to be very interested.
You think Adley Rutschman is going to be overdrafted next year? Especially if you think that he's going to be coming up in April. Being the catcher, and catcher is not too thick a position, right? There isn't that much down there. You think he'll be overdrafted?
Yeah, I definitely think he'll be overdrafted next year. I mean, it's just especially like in the NFBC two catcher leagues we play in, he's definitely going to be overdrafted, and there's a chance. I mean, he's talented enough and he's old enough that maybe he just hits the ground running and lives up to expectations right away. He's definitely like it's worth considering with him. Like he should have debuted a couple months ago, like I said. So it's not like this is a guy who they're really like pushing him and maybe he won't be ready. Like he was ready a couple months ago. So there's a chance he really hits the ground running, but I think you're gonna have to pay um, really a lot to get him and take that chance. And to me, like I don't love paying up for catchers in the first place, and so paying up for a guy who's not proven at the big league level just doesn't seem really appealing to me.
Well, I don't like paying up for anybody. I mean, the again, the secret to value. Remember, return on investment. You got to get a good return on investment in every spot. And there's two ways to get a return on investment. One is a huge return, and the other is a small investment. So anytime you have to pay up, has to be a lock on getting that value. And catchers, you just never know. And he could be. There's a percentage chance he's the number one catcher next year, but who the hell knows? All right, Ruven, any other prospects that you want to ask James about before we wrap up this prospect section?
Yeah, there's one other. Well, there are two really, but one I want to know about is Max Mayer. He's been pitching lights out right now in Double A. He's got a 1 6-1 record, 1.97 ERA, a 1.17 WHIP. His K per nine is 9.6 right now in Triple A, and he's got in Double A. I'm sorry, and he's got a 51% ground ball rate. When can we expect to see him?
That's a good question because the Marlins, I don't even know if it's sneaky anymore, but they kind of project to have the most starting pitching depth of any team in the majors over the next like 3 to 4 years. Because obviously we know how good the big league rotation looks when they're all healthy and pitching, but they've also got Meyer, like you said, they've got Sixto Sanchez coming back, they've got Edward Cabrera who looked excellent yesterday. They've got Jake Eater, who's at Double A, who's a really good pitching prospect as well. So they've just got all this talent on the way. They don't even need Jesus Luzardo to pan out at all, and they've just got an embarrassment of riches. So there's going to have to be a spot available for Meyer to get that chance. And obviously, we aren't going to bank on these guys staying healthy and staying productive. So I think the spot will open up at some point next summer. But I think he's more of a watch list guy for me in 2022. Like I don't think you go out and you stash a pitching prospect who might not be up for a couple months. But I mean, I love Meyer. I think he's a no doubt top three pitching prospect. His slider is absolutely ridiculous, and yeah, I mean, I'm really excited to see how he does in the majors.
And there's one other player I want to mention. This guy Nolan, he plays third base for the Cardinals. I'm not talking about Nolan Arenado. I'm talking about Nolan Gorman. He's playing. He's a natural third baseman. He's playing second base right now in the minors, and he's really hitting very well. Where do you see him in the Cardinals' future? Because I think they're trying to put him at second, because second base right now is open, but they'd have to move some pieces around. What do you think about him?
Yeah, I thought that if the Cardinals had been a bit more in the hunt and Gorman had played a bit better at AAA, I think we could have seen him this year. I mean, he like you said, he's doing fine at AAA. I don't think he's necessarily kicking the door down, but and I don't think the Cardinals are quite competitive enough. Maybe we could see him in September. I guess I wouldn't completely rule that out. And the Cardinals are one of those teams that will, like, I think they're kind of maybe in the middle to maybe a bit more player friendly. Like, I don't think they're just going to go out of their way to manipulate a guy's service time. Um, but I do think he's their second baseman of the future. He's been fine there. As you said, third base is his more natural position, but that's very clearly locked up, and I think they can move guys like Tommy Edman around, and so I think Gorman spends the bulk of next year in the majors. He probably goes to the Arizona Fall League as well, and he could win a job out of spring training next year. I wouldn't necessarily rule that out, but we'll definitely get to see how the bat plays early next season.
All right, let's move on to our waiver wire section today. That's where we talk about a few potential waiver wire pickups you might want to get on your team this week. James, we'll start with you. Do you have a player or so that you think that people should be looking at?
Man, this is so tough. I see Connor Joe out there in my TGFBI league. I see him out there in an online championship league that I'm in, which is a 12-teamer, and the Rockies have one series at home next week, so Connor Joe stands out. I don't know. It's one of those things where it's very league dependent. So I don't have anything that's like amazing. That's earth shattering for you on the hitter side.
Yeah, and Connor Joe's a good pick, although I've got a lot of Raimel Tapia shares, so I'm sort of, oh no. And I don't have any Connor Joe shares. I probably should have jumped in quicker. We actually mentioned Connor Joe in the show about a month ago, and yeah, he was definitely the right guy, and still is if he's available in your league. Ruvain, how about you? Any other picks for waiver wire this week?
I have two, and one of them actually James mentioned. That's Edward Cabrera. He made his first start last night. He has a 14.7 K per 9 rate in AAA this year. He's a possible to-start next week, which means he gets to play the Mets and the Phillies. He's only 32% owned, and he's a guy that's available in most leagues, so you can get him, and you can probably get a lot of strikeouts, especially if he plays the Mets, unfortunately. Another guy I want to mention is a guy that people really forgot about, Dan Vogelbach. He's a power hitting guy for the Brewers right now. He's on a rehab assignment. He's only 3% owned in CBS, and he can get on a hot streak, and he can carry your team with power for a week or two. So he's a guy that he's available in a ton of leagues. People are just forgetting about him. It's a matter of playing time. But if he's available, he's a guy you can take a dollar waiver wire on him, and you'll get him, and you'll see if you can roll with him.
A couple guys for me to mention here. Dalton Varsho, he's 50% owned, but if you are in a one-catcher league, he probably is available. Batting .227 with 9 homers, but he was batting about 100 just a couple of weeks ago. Since August 11th, triple slash of 343, 425, 829 with 4 homers, a stolen base, 9 RBIs. Dalton Varsho, he plays both catcher and outfield pretty regularly, and especially if you can bring him over to next year, he might be I think he will be catcher eligible, depending upon your league format and rules, obviously. But catcher and outfield eligibility, that's definitely a good thing to have. He was very highly regarded going into this year. I drafted him in quite a few leagues. Didn't exactly pan out, but he's starting to hit. So take a look at Varsho. How about Aledmus Diaz, only 20% owned? He's on a 6-game hitting streak. On the season, he's batting .303 with 7 homers and 38 RBIs and only 221 at-bats per game. That is wonderful. In a good lineup, he's eligible at second base, third base, outfield. That's a great utility guy to have on your team in 15-team leagues, even in 12-team leagues as a bench guy if you have a short IL. So take a look at Aledmus Diaz. And I'll mention a pitcher. I'm not going to mention him in the pitcher preview because I don't love his matchups, but you got to talk about him. Antonio Senzatela, 13% owned on CBS, 4.42 ERA on the year, 82 strikeouts and 118 innings, but since June 18th, his ERA 3.78, and that's with a 2.77 FIP, a BABIP of 3.42. So he's actually been rather unlucky with the hits, yet he's only produced a 2.77 FIP. Here's the thing that really intrigues me the most about him. Out of his last 8 starts, 6 of them were quality starts. He goes deep into games, and the name of the game in fantasy baseball for pitchers is go deep into the games. The longer you go into the game, the better the chance you have to win. Especially a guy in Colorado, there are a lot of runs being scored. That means that there's a lot of chances for the Rockies to be out in front. So Senzatela, don't love his matchup this week, but he's been really interesting and definitely under-owned. I have him in a bunch of leagues, under-owned, so take a look at him. Anyone else to mention? Anybody else?
I don't think so. I think it's pretty bare right now until we get into September when we start seeing other players drop, and we can make use of other teams' players because people will be coming back from injury. That's what I think.
Right.
Yeah,
All right.
I mean, I like the Edward Cabrera call a lot. I was not sure if we were supposed to save him for the pitching thing, but yeah, I mean, he's going to be like, I think he's going to go for over 10% of a lot of fab budgets this weekend.
Yep. And on to the pitcher preview. We were talking about some pitchers with either a good one-start matchup, good two-start matchup, or maybe they're a future two-star pitcher and they're free this week. And if you wait until next week, they won't be free because everybody will look at them. 2 starts, got to pay for him, but you can get them right now for very free or cheap. All right, let's start with you, James. Who is a pitcher that you would like to pick up this week?
All right, so these are going to be kind of, for 15 team leagues and deeper. Wouldn't necessarily run these guys out in a 12 teamer, but Brady Singer has Cleveland. He's been pitching a bit better of late, and he has Cleveland this week, and then he does line up for a 2-start the following week. Now it's at Baltimore and then at Minnesota next week for Singer. So, it's not ideal to start him in Baltimore, but I think in 15 teamers you could do worse. And then the Rangers, it looks like Glenotto is going to debut for them tomorrow, which would line him up, assuming that he sticks around. It would line him up to pitch at home against the Rockies next Wednesday. So Glenotto, to me, he was in that Joey Gallo trade. He's more of like a number 4, number 5 starter. Like, I'm not that high on him as a prospect at all, but I think him at home against the Rockies, I'm okay with that one.
All right, Ruvenia.
Well, I'm going to mention a guy that I think, Ara, you mentioned a couple weeks ago, and that's Taylor Widner from Arizona. He's 1 start this week for San Diego, but ignore his ERA that you see right there. It says 4.34. It's gone down from 5 in his last 3 starts. So he's pitched very well. He's got 17 strikeouts in the last 15 innings, and he's only 10% owned, and he's a possible 2-star pitcher the following week. So this is a time that if you want to get him, you can get him real cheap, and you don't have to pay for that 2-star value the following week.
Yep, and I did mention him a couple of weeks ago, but yeah, pick up the 2-start guy the following week. I'm going to mention a couple of pitchers of varying levels of league depth. Start with Miles Michaelis, 30% owned on CBS. He's playing at Cincinnati. Then he's 2-start against the Dodgers, Cincinnati. Not the most fantastic starts, but again, it depends on your situation. 2-star pitchers are 2-star pitchers. He's still ramping up. He went 5 innings against Pittsburgh in his last outing, 2 hits, 5 strikeouts, no earned runs. Michaelis won't give you a tremendous amount of strikeouts in general, but he is always pitched with a good ERA and WHIP. So take a look at him and see if it fits your team. The guy I really like this week, Kyle Freeland. He's only 26% owned on CBS, perfect for about a 12-teamer, and if he's available in 15, you should pick him up. He's playing at Texas this week. That's a good start. And then 2-start the following week, San Francisco and at Philadelphia. I like Rockies pitchers. Rockies we mentioned Senzatela, but along with Freeland and with German Marquez, they like to have pitchers go deep into games. You don't have that many teams doing that, but the Rockies are one of them. So I like Rockies pitchers if you need the wins help. Obviously, with Rockies, you got to watch the ERA, especially if they're at home. So I wouldn't. If you're close in your leagues in ERA, I would probably not pick up a Rockies pitcher. But if you are either a safe lead or you won't be able to catch somebody, but wins are tight,